Black Widow, who's right there. Ambush, ambush me. Oh God.
I see.
It's right there.
Another day, another vlog. Welcome back, guys. We're here. We have some parts over here that we're actually going to be installing today. So we're doing something other than maintenance on the car for once. It'll be nice. Back here we got a Whiteline 24mm sway bar and some Perrin spherical Endlinks. The reason I decided to go with the Perrin spherical Endlinks is because the bar is bagged, the rear end moves a lot more when I air up and down, so I wanted something that would be a little more versatile to the abuse that I'd be giving it. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to unbox these and take a look at what they provided. Alright, bam. Perrin box. So let's go ahead and open this up, see what they sent. So our two spherical Endlinks and instructions. I'm not going to use these. So the box can go aside. Let's open these up. Ooh, they're heavy duty. Alright, so the quality on these is actually really nice. Everything is press fitted in on the bushing side. You have all the sleeved collars up here for everything, and it feels fantastic. Like, this is a really good quality piece of metal here. We got two of them, left and right, obviously, so they're pretty self-explanatory. They're adjustable in height, up and down, and yeah, they do their job. So set these aside. We'll open up this next one for the sway bar. So included with the 24mm adjustable rear sway bar, we have two of the sway bar locks. These go from the sway bar bracket down to the lower control arm. These will help brace and reinforce the sway bar. We have two of Whiteline's greaseless bushings, which if you stick your finger in here, that's a nice feeling. So two greaseless bushings. We have two of the slide locks for the sway bar to keep it going from left to right. One for each side. Some hardware for the braces, and then we have the sway bar itself. So this is a pretty rigid sway bar. We will compare this one to the factory one when we get out of the car. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna jack up the car, get everything set up, and start working on it. Alright, now that we've got the car jacked up, we're going to grab our tools. We're going to grab two 14mm spanners. Bam! A spanner 17, a 14, a 12, and a 17 socket. Also, I'm using a 3/8 inch ratchet. So, take a pick on what you want to use. I'm using these to make the job easiest. So, let's hop into the car and start pulling the old one out. Now that we're into the car, here we have our sway bar mount. This holds our rear sway bar to the chassis of the car. If you follow the sway bar around here, you can see the end link on this back side right here. So we're going to start by disconnecting the top of the end link from the sway bar, so that way we can take the sway bar out a lot easier without these guys swinging around and hitting everything. So we're going to go ahead and pull these out first. This top bolt is a 14mm, so we're going to pull that out. With that bolt out, we're going to do the other side real quick. Now that we've got the other side off, we're going to go ahead and pull this side off. This will be a 14mm bolt on this side and a 14mm nut on the other side. So we'll go ahead and remove that. You're going to end up reusing this bolt, so go ahead and set that one aside. Knock out the other side real quick. With both of those knocked out, we're going to go ahead and remove that end link up here. You can go ahead and either knock it out with a ratchet or a small hammer. I'm going to use the back side of my ratchet and just knock it out. With the end link knocked out of the rear sway bar, we're going to do the same thing to the other side, and then we're going to start taking off this sway bar. Before we start taking off the rear sway bar, we're actually going to knock out this lower end link. I'm just going to pound it up with this. Now that we've got our end link out, we're going to start taking out the rear sway bar. I may need to remove this exhaust section if it gets in the way, so we're going to first attempt to do it with the exhaust on. If we need to take it off, we will. Now that we've got the end link knocked out, we're going to go ahead and remove the sway bar from the chassis. We're gonna start by taking out this bottom bolt and then this top bolt. Both of them are 12 millimeter, and then we're gonna remove this bracket. With both the bolts taken out, we're gonna take off this bracket. It has a little notch on the top which locks it into place, so go ahead and just lift up on it and it'll pull right off. We're gonna need that later, so go ahead and set that aside. And now the sway bar is free from the chassis. Because I don't have much room down here, I'm actually gonna take off the rear section of my exhaust. So I removed my exhaust right here because I had absolutely no room to work. As you can see, it's kind of dangling behind me now. But as soon as you remove the exhaust, it frees up a lot of room. So the sway bar will sit up here like so. Once you remove the exhaust or get anything out of your way, it'll just drop right down. So the old sway bar out, we're gonna go compare the old one to the new one. All right, so here we have the two sway bars. We have the factory one here and the Whiteline one here. So I have a pair of calipers, so we can go ahead and measure the difference between these two. So the factory one comes in at about 20 millimeters, and the Whiteline one comes in at a astonishing 24 millimeters, just like we ordered. Another thing that I like about the Whiteline one is this one is fully adjustable, so you have 3 slots. So you have hard, medium, soft on these, versus the factory one where you only have the one hole on the end of it. So now that we've got a comparison, I kind of want to go through how the rear suspension works, so we're going to set up a little demo real quick. So here's kind of a breakdown of your rear suspension. You have your lower control arms, left to right. You have your Endlinks here on each side, and then your sway bar that runs across. Down here is where the lower control arm connects to the chassis. On the STI, this is where your height sensor would be. On the next hole over is where your strut goes, and then this last hole mounts to the hub of the car, which if you get some rear camber bolts or anything, this is where you would adjust camber from. So we're swapping out the component of the rear sway bar and the Endlink. So now that I've kind of given a visual breakdown outside of the car so you can see a little bit better, we're going to go through and install the new stuff. Now that we're ready to install the sway bar, go ahead and throw on the greaseless bushings. They just clamp on, there's little like openings on them. So go ahead and throw those on. Doesn't matter the orientation quite yet. Once we get under the car, we'll orientate it to the car. So let's get this thrown on. All right, now that we're ready to throw the sway bar on, we're gonna go ahead and align it. So we're gonna slide it in up behind the bracket to the chassis on both sides. And then the flat portion of the bushing here is gonna sit against the bracket. So now that we have the sway bar in place, we're gonna go ahead and grab the U brackets that we pulled out earlier and slide it into the channel on top of that mounting position. Go ahead and do this on both sides. If you want, you can put a bolt in to help hold it in place. If you don't, drop it like it's hot. Drop it. With our sway bar being held up, we're gonna install the top bolt on this bracket. So you do not want to tighten these down all the way quite yet. So leave them a little bit loose, just get them finger tight. Now that we've got the rear sway bar installed, we're gonna go ahead and install our support beam. Support beam is gonna go from the mounting hole here to the lower control arm. The flanged portion is gonna connect to the lower control arm with the flange facing the rear of the car, and this is gonna sit in that other portion up here, and we're gonna use the screws provided up here. So we're gonna go ahead, take off the bolt on the bottom side here and connect it up. Slide this guy up here. You can go ahead and run this through to begin with and then start threading it in. All right, at this stage, this is what it should look like. You've got one support brace here, another support brace over here behind my head, the sway bar running across here, and my dangly exhaust. From this point, we're gonna go ahead and get the Endlinks lined up on both sides, and then we're gonna start tightening everything down. Now, with anything you do with your rear suspension involving the sway bar, you don't wanna tighten it down until there's a load on the wheels. We should be good to drive after that. So we're gonna go ahead and get the Endlinks installed, and then we have the lateral locks that go on the sway bar, and we should be good. So I'm using the Perrin spherical Endlinks. They are adjustable, and they have these nice machine bushings on them. So I'm gonna be using these to install. So this bushing is going to face the sway bar as so, like that. So that way it keeps the geometry of the rear suspension in line. So that way we don't have to do any major tweaks. So we're gonna go ahead and slide the Endlink back into position on the lower control arm, just like how we took the factory one out. Once we get the bottom portion lined up on the control arm, we're gonna slide the bolt through to hold this guy in place. With the Endlink now in place, we're gonna go ahead and throw the bolt back on, make sure it stays secure and doesn't come out. Now that we've got this bolt back in place, our Endlink set up, we can go ahead and get the Endlink connected to the sway bar. Oh God. Oh, it's dusty. Now that we have our Endlinks connected to our sway bar up top, we're gonna go ahead and start tightening down this hardware. So I'm gonna work from the outside in. All right, now that we've gotten everything tightened down, we're gonna go ahead and put in the lateral locks. These go on the outside of the bushings right here. And what they do is they keep the sway bar from moving back and forth while you're driving. So there's 2 Allen keys on this, so we're gonna go ahead, loosen these up and get these on the sway bar. Yo, so we just wrapped up the rear sway bar and Matt got off work and decided to swing by, and he's doing some weird panoramic shots out here for some reason. Your jacket is so reflective. Dude, the camera picks it up so well. You're so shiny. So this is what you can kind of expect to see when you're done. So your lateral locks are up here. You have your rear braces, the sway bar going across, and then the Endlinks are going to be right up there. So you're going to have the same thing on both sides. It's going to be mirrored. Make sure you tighten all this down as well. That's pretty much it. Not hard at all. All right, guys, we got the car back on the ground. Everything is tightened down, good to go. The Black Widow that came out of the ceiling scared the living turds out of me and Matt.
I don't want to be in here.
We got more videos coming. Like and sub below. I appreciate everyone's time. Peace out.